All right, so welcome everyone. We're here to talk about the Beckman Scholars program at the University of Utah. This is Arnold Beckman and his rules for success. We'll talk about those a little bit later. Um, we, Professor Hammond and I co-wrote a proposal and received funding to bring the Beckman Scholars program to the University of Utah. And last year was our first year starting the program, and we're looking this year to select undergraduates for the second year of this program. So what is this opportunity? It's a 15-month mentored research experience for an undergraduate researcher in chemistry, biological sciences, or a combination thereof. Importantly, the internally selected scholars receive a $21,000 research stipend to facilitate 15 months of research. And so the program starts or will start in June of this year and will continue 15 months thereafter. A little bit about the Arnold and Mabel Beckman Foundation. The main intention here is to support young scientists and to foster innovation. You can read more about the foundation here and also see that Arnold Beckman was the founder of Beckman Instruments and was really fascinated by understanding chemistry and biology and facilitating sciences with that instrumentation. One of the main objectives in bringing the Beckman Scholars Program is not only to support the cohort of undergraduate researchers each year, but to encourage undergraduates to do research in general. And so we are connected with other undergraduate research funding opportunities like the UROP program and the summer REU opportunities. Really, we hope that the Beckman Scholars can help encourage their peers, those in classes below them, and really motivate students to join research labs. And so a really great example of this is the Beckman Scholars program was at the University of Utah a while back in the year 2000. And Dr. Reshma Shetty was an undergraduate researcher in the Oliveira lab, where they co-published several papers. Dr. Shetty then went on to earn her PhD, and she is now the founder of a company called Ginkgo Bioworks. So this is really a great success story for the Beckman Scholars Program at the university, and we certainly mentioned this in our most recent proposal and funded program. But now we are excited to say that last year we introduced the program, and we talked about it the same way that we are now. We sent out a call for applications, and we identified Sonia Segal and Rory Weeks. Both of them are here today on the call. If you have any specific questions about the process or about their experience in the program. Sonia is working with Dr. Martin Horvath, and Rory is working with Dr. Louisa Whitaker Brooks. And so they could tell you more about their project if you're interested, or more about their experience so far as a Beckman scholar at the U. I will say that the experience is probably a little different than we all expected because of the COVID situation, but Rory and Sonia were both able to describe activities that they could do remotely, and that was, I think, especially important for the first part, the summer period last year. So what are the requirements for eligibility? You must be a full-time student and a declared science major. You must be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident and be a freshman, sophomore, or junior. the whole point of this program is that you are committed to 15 months of research. So you really can't start the program and then leave in the middle of it. And ideally, you have some research experience, but I think that we would encourage everyone to apply because you can apply multiple years in a row. I think that as you submit applications and then improve those in the following years, your chances increase in the selection process. So the first step of this is attending the info session. This video will be posted online as well as the PowerPoint slides, so should have all the information there. Second part is that you, in order to apply, you have to come to an agreement or already be working with one of these 15 mentors. And so these are all active research labs in the chemistry and biology departments within the College of Science. If you're already working with one of these people, that's great. If not, I think this is exactly the opportunity we want to motivate you to connect with one of these people. It can also be a combination of the two if your project requires multiple discipline areas. So important dates, today's an information session and the first day that you can start working on the application, but the deadline is March 31st. This is a slight change from last year. It's a little bit earlier. That gives us more time to read applications and do the interviews, which are scheduled for probably mid-April. So if you turn in your application by the deadline, then we'll be likely in touch with you within a couple weeks from that date with a hard deadline for ourselves of identifying the scholars May 1st, and then collecting information from those identified scholars and submitting it to the Beckman Foundation with the hopes of all this being done so that you can start your research June 21st. So I think I already mentioned, the requirement for eligibility. In addition, the application should be sent to, sorry, I have the email address somewhere. It's Beckman Scholars Foundation, sorry, Beckman Scholars Program at the U. Yeah, right here. And within that application, we ask for a 2-page maximum CV or resume, unofficial copy of your academic transcript. Most importantly, your research proposal. We'll talk about the format of that. We ask for that to be in an NSF style fellowship format. And then a short essay on the legacy of Arnold Beckman and including your short and long-term goals. Any questions on the NSF fellowship format, you can check this link here. It's a standard size 12-point font with 1-inch margins. So please follow that format. And if you are curious to see some successful NSF proposals, this links out to a Google Drive where there are many successful examples of science fellowship applications. The short essay is slightly changed from what we asked for last year. Last year we talked about having you write a short essay on which one of Dr. Beckman's rules that you identify with or embody as a Beckman scholar. This is an opportunity to be creative, but we also wanted to know a little bit more about your short and long-term goals. So what are you interested in doing longer term, and how can the Beckman Scholars program help you to achieve those goals? And so these are the 7 rules. Number 1 is no satisfactory substitute for excellence. Number 2, absolute integrity in everything. Number 3, everything in moderation, including moderation itself. Number 4 is personal favorite, hire the best people and then get out of their way. Number 5, don't be afraid of making mistakes. If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not doing very much. Number 6, acquire new knowledge and always ask why. And rule number 7, don't take yourself too seriously. So I think these are kind of fun essay prompts, and we like to see, not only what kind of resonates with you, but how maybe you can connect this with an event in your research life, or how this kind of speaks to you, and connect that with your short and long-term goals as a scientist. The application form is using a Google form that will immediately be sent to an email that we can access when you submit it. If you accidentally submit the wrong thing, you can just resubmit it and it will change. So that's important to know. I will monitor that email, and I also ask that you send a copy of your application to that email. If there's any issues, you're free to email me, but this went pretty straightforward last year, so I don't foresee any problems here. The link to access this form is here, and everything else should be looking like this. So let me know if there's any issues. And I think that's the end of the presentation. These are the rules again. I'd be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. I think there's only two little, or at least one other thing I did want to make sure to mention, because it actually mainly concerns if you are, again, I expect that you're recording this video, so it's going to be on the website, so other students can watch this videos as well. So I did want to mention that if you are a junior and you're applying for this year's Beckman Scholar program, that the research program commitment does include basically this coming summer, the full academic year, and the summer after basically what would be your senior year. So just wanted to, I think that was something that the program officer wanted us to make sure to mention, especially again, if you're in your junior year, that you're, that that the research commitment extends through to include the summer after your senior year as well. Yeah. And then, yeah, any questions? And then I was actually gonna prompt Rory and Sonia with some questions as well.
Sure.
But I guess Olivia or Brian, either of you guys have anything you're wondering about?
Yeah, I had a question that maybe some students might share in, but do you plan on addressing how students may have been impacted by this pandemic in regards to like the research portfolio and all that?
That's
Or like, yeah, like how, or like, will you take it into consideration or anything like that? If I make it more clear.
yeah. So maybe one thing I would say is that the way kind of the program works is that it's a 3-year program, so we're kind of right at the halfway point here, and that the program is essentially the foundation gave us the resources to be able to award 6 total Beckman Scholars. So I think that wasn't actually in the info slides. So last year, our first year, we were really happy that Rory and Sonia were able to, were kind of chosen as our Beckman Scholars for 2020. So for 2021, essentially we have the discretion to award anywhere from 1 to 4 total scholars if we wanted to. I would say that I think every student that's here at the University of Utah currently is definitely experiencing, of course, impacts on their research and everything else in your life in regards to COVID. I think that our application prompt doesn't ask for that, in part because yeah, it doesn't ask for that. I guess Andrew and I can talk a little bit about whether we want to add another essay for you guys to kind of talk a bit more about kind of the experience. However, I would say it's not one of our criteria. So in other words, I would say that one of our criteria is not the person that has experienced the most hardship, or, it's not the purview of this particular program.
Yeah, so I would also add, Brian, that you applied last year, but your application this year will be considered new, and we're not going to go back and compare that. So we're not going to fault you for, maybe not making as much progress as we all would have expected, right?
Well, before,
yeah,
yeah, and hopefully you guys will give us a pass for the two of us not getting as much done as we expected as well.
I think that's good to know. I mean, just for students like me who applied last year, I'm assuming that maybe they had some concerns like, oh, what if I didn't do as much this year because of the pandemic? Like, would it be worth for me applying again?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Andrew and I know that COVID has happened. In other words, like, I don't think we need a 350 word essay.
Yeah.
Since we've all are experiencing the same things like right now. I think there were a couple of people in the news like many months ago that crawled out from, some expedition where they literally didn't know about it. But I think Andrew and I have been around. Yeah, so, I did want to take this opportunity to ask Rory and Sonia if, if they, I think I saw both of you guys at the Beckman Symposium. There is kind of actually will be, I guess I should mention to students that are interested actually. So basically in the first year, the first summer, students get the opportunity to attend the Beckman Symposium. And then in the second summer, students get the opportunity to actually do a poster presentation or a talk at the Beckman Symposium. So I was actually going to ask Rory and Sonia kind of about maybe about the symposium actually that you attended last year. How did you find it, and what kind of observations would you make that might be of interest to people that are interested in the Beckman Scholar Program? Sonia, go ahead.
I think the Beckman program is like such a unique research opportunity compared to like Europe or any other opportunities at the U, because you do get that networking aspect that you get when you go to the Beckman Symposium. And it was really cool to see a bunch of like researchers from all around the country, basically, just like presenting or even just going to the workshops and participating in their activities and everything like that. So it was like a 3-day experience where you could just meet other people and kind of hear about like other research going on as well. And it was really cool. I have never done something like that before, so it was really interesting.
Yeah, I'd agree with those sentiments, I guess. So even though it was like totally online, it was still like pretty cool to like check all this stuff out. In particular, like even the recorded, I remember watching a lot of the recorded student presentations, and I thought those were pretty awesome. So yeah, it's a good experience.
Yeah, and so what's really great is Rory and Sonia will get to represent the University of Utah this year, and so this will be a kind of our first year returning to this symposium, and representing the undergraduate research going on here at the U, and actually it is the Beckman Symposium actually is all of the programs that the Beckman Foundation supported. So I think so I had the opportunity, it being our first year, to attend and actually, again, as an alum, give an alumni talk. But I think what is also notable is I think students, you getting to see that, the foundation has actually supports undergraduate research. They also support young scholars, in actually up to postdoctoral fellowships, and then actually young faculty like Beckman Young Investigators. And so kind of seeing that, that this is kind of part of the Beckman family, if you will, regardless of what stage that you join with the foundation. They are, I think, a very, very supportive group, and they want to see all of their people. I think they invest in people, and they want you to succeed. So that's kind of neat. And I think a little bit different, definitely very different when it's a philanthropic foundation that has a mission, and the mission is actually investing in the right people and helping them succeed, which I think is also reflected in the resources that they give you as an undergraduate student. So, yeah. How about you, Andrew? Any other questions you have for Rory or Sonia before we close out?
I think I'm good on that. I did connect with Rory and Sonia about a month ago.
Oh,
to see where they're at the program. Yeah.
Awesome.
I actually had a question for them, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I wanted to know what a typical day looked like for you while doing classes and working with your research during the school year.
Yeah, that's a good question, especially like while everything's online. So the first part of my project was kind of doing research on like virtually. So it was a little bit easier to handle, I guess, because I was just, at home. And then when my class was done, I could just work on my research. And I think with like this scholarship, you do have a lot more freedom. In turn, because like you kind of act like your own private like principal investigator. So because of that, you kind of have the flexibility to manipulate your own schedule. So yeah, I guess especially right now with my classes being not as intensive as they were previously, I have a lot more time to kind of do both and just like set my own schedule. Whether I'm not in class, I'd be working on research and that sort of thing.
Thanks, Sonia.
Yeah, I think like it's definitely a balance. I think last semester I probably had too big of a course load, even with the online stuff. It was pretty stressful, but I think you'll find that even if you do have like a decent amount of classes, like there will be time to come in and work on stuff, even if like in my lab the scheduling to come in is pretty strict. But there are accommodations for that, so it's maybe not as big of an issue as you would think, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. It's pretty feasible.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
maybe just speaking up a little bit to say that, remember that the program kind of has the phases of the summertime where really like the 2 summers, you're really expected to be full-time. The amount of the scholarship kind of reflects that's your full-time gig for those 2 summers. And then in the during the academic year in between, typically it would be, I think, especially if you're, it depends on kind of majors and course loads and things, but it's definitely not, it's definitely expected that you are, a student first, and that you are doing research, as it kind of works out with your faculty mentor. I think you can get feedback from your faculty mentor on that as well, in terms of their expectations in lab.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, should we kind of stop the official recording then?
Yeah.